as a traveler, I think most travelers will share my views that every culture, even some traditions that feel horrible to you, they work in their own ways, in their own environment, and you would travelers respect that. You can find good things in there, bad things
Mm.
in there, in every tradition, and that's the one aspect that I wanted to share with the world. Um, I feel like we could use a book where it's to open people up. See, arranged marriage, for example, in my book, usually if you go to a Westerner, you would feel like this is a horrible, horrible thing, right?
Right. Hmm.
Arranged marriage is unthinkable. It's always bad. It's never good. But coming from my culture, where we're third world countries, where I know I've been with people who are so poor, and people who would have to support their entire family, and they would willingly marry someone they don't love for money to support their family.
Right.
It's some of those families do need them, and this is so it's not always a horrible thing. Some people can, like the Jari, um, find sacrifice their own freedom of choice for something greater, for the community, for someone else that they love. This is something that is also noble, and it's a part where I think a lot of Westerners don't see. You always look at it. The thing is, I've grown up in half my life in the Western world and half my life here,
Hmm.
so I see it from both point of views. I don't
Right.
hate any side. I can see it that there's bad things about this, but I want to show you that it's not always about the parents forcing their kids to marry. Some of these kids understand that
Well,
they're
then,
doing good things for the community, and it's okay.
well, thank you for joining me today. For everybody watching, this is Sienna Frost. She's the author of Obsidian: The Awakening, which is this is part one of how many books do you have planned for this?
I don't plan. Oh, I don't know.
Okay, well, how many books do you have going at the moment?
I'm writing book two at the moment. I
Okay.
know this is going to be at least three books because I cannot wrap this up in two.
Okay.
Um, so it could go on. By the time I'm writing book three, I could feel like I need more time. So I have no idea. I'm a pantser, so
Okay.
um, I don't know ahead at all.
All right. So you said that you're a pantser. Well, what do you usually? Where do your stories come from? Is it mainly the characters first, or where do you get your ideas, or where do they seem to come from?
It's the characters and their relationship. I usually start off with wanting to write. Say for Obsidian, the first thought that came to me was that I want to write a relationship between this couple that cannot be together but stuck together,
Right.
and I like that tension, and it sort of grew from that. So what conflicts am I going to give them? Why would they be together but can't really, are not allowed to be together? And that's Dajari and Hashim, actually. It started with them.
Oh, okay. That's not
Yeah,
the.
it was Muradi and Zara, but they actually didn't appear in the story until their story was actually like the seventh or eighth chapter. I pants.
Okay.
But it started out with Najari and Hashim, and their story started. It the story I really wanted to write hasn't even begun in the book. It's gonna be somewhere in book three, I believe.
Oh,
And
wow. Because
and
well, you said that the two that are together, and I always automatically thought one couple, but that's great though that that's what you're planning on.
oh no, because I have suddenly have this scene in mind. This impossible relationship in mind. And I actually started writing during that timeline. That was the first draft of Obsidian that I threw away. I threw away 70K
Oh
of the
wow.
whole book. Because eventually I realized this is not the point where I start. It's not the start of the story, and then it it just feels that it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And then I stopped for a year, I think, or two, and then their backgrounds, the backstories came to me, and it just makes them a lot more solid. And the backstory explains and it explains the relationship and makes it even worse.
Right.
So I rewrote the whole thing from the start, from before they were even met,
Okay.
before they even met. So that's why I threw away 70K and started like it's almost a generation back. Is it
Yeah.
better?
It is better. Okay, so for anybody watching this, we're having some technical difficulties, so we might as well go ahead and tell the viewers where you're at right now. Oh, so where are you located right now?
I'm in Bangkok, Thailand.
Yes, and I'm in Tennessee, in the USA.
So it's 5 a.m. I mean 8 a.m. my time, and I think it's
It's
at night
9 p.m. my time. So
yesterday.
yes, it's Wednesday for you. So that's just a neat little thing though, because I love that we can talk. But yeah, sometimes the technology is just it fails us.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were talking about your characters and about how you come up with the situations. And I love that you created like a relationship situation and just kind of explored that about why that might be and what that would look like. And then you did it twice in your book. So that's intriguing.
Yeah, it was writing about them, and then I realized this is not the story, and I found a better story to tell, a stronger one,
Hmm.
that is going to solidify the original idea that I have. So I went back.
So you call yourself a pantser, which maybe your first drafts are, but I don't know. There's a plotting going on in there too. You know.
I wouldn't say. I just have a vague idea of it's
Mhm.
actually the relationship. I always start my book with a relationship that I want to write. I was a romance
Mhm.
writer for most of the time. This is probably my first fantasy,
Okay.
well, proper fantasy. Because before this, I always write in historical context, but it's not fantasy. It usually doesn't have made up worlds and stuff.
Hmm.
But I usually start with a relationship because I write. I always say that everything I write is always about love. I
Right.
write love. I'm a writer who write love, and yeah. So it's always start with I want to write this relationship, and then I from there I find out who they are,
Hmm.
and from that it's all pantsing. It's all grown from this is who they are, this is what this character is, and then is about, and then I find out their background, their history,
Hmm.
and their relatives and their friends, and people just started walking into the set, and then from there I find out about them too, and then you just have a bunch of people wanting something that clashes with another,
Right. The
and
conflict
that
is so
is how
key.
my plot, what I would call plot, is actually originated from um, characterization mostly.
Okay.
So the only thing that I start with is the relationship that I want to write, and it grows from that.
Well, how did you end up with your setting? Because it's a unique, but I love the setting because this is not it's not
Because I
overdone
needed
for
the
sure.
conflict. I
Okay,
needed
with the
the
desert and the
conflict.
city. Okay. Well,
I
it's just
I
a
need I Yeah, it really started like I need these two people together, but they can't be together. So why would that be? So there has to be some kind of cultural thing or
mm,
traditions, or they must be in the position that prevents them from being together. So what is so I and then I find out that their positions, and then from that the world grows. So why are they in this situation? Oh, because tradition demands it. And what tradition demands it well, this is so I made up this group of people, and from that, I made up a religion to back that up. So it's always me asking questions. Why would that happen? And then, but why would that happen? If you keep asking why, that's how world building it's done for
Right.
me. I don't build worlds ahead of time. I build worlds because I need this. I need A to happen, and then I find excuses for A to happen, and I find more excuses to for B to happen, and then it feels like I have this whole big elaborate world that I planned from the start. It's not that. It's just they're all
Well, it
excuses.
worked. So it worked because I'm one.
It's finding excuses is what forces me to build
Mhm.
my world. So that's I pants the world building as well.
Well, and you're right. It does because, well, I think part of it was seemed like it was taken from cultures that existed. Not all of it. But you look back in history and be like, okay, well, this would make sense. Why? It was
Yeah,
all very logical. There wasn't. Sometimes you read and you're like, well, that doesn't make any sense, but it has some historical backing. I could look at some of the
yeah.
religions and recognize, okay, so people do believe this. When did you first start writing?
My first time
Yes.
probably about 12.
Hey, that's when I started.
It was the time when I discovered reading because
Mhm.
here I grew up with manga,
Okay.
and so I didn't actually start reading a proper novel until I was about 12 because it takes a lot of focus to finish a book.
Mhm.
My friend gave me a book, they were all talking about it. I read it and I realized, oh, I can do this.
Okay.
I have stories. I've always had stories in my head since I can remember. I'm a I'm an explorer. I need to live somewhere else. I need to try many different lives. So my first memory is me wandering in the garden, pretending to be some kind of princess. But then the stories in my head were really elaborate,
Right.
even when I was young. So I had a big cast around me that was just in my head.
Oh,
But
yes. No, I know
grew up,
exactly what you're talking
yeah,
about, so
so when I grew up with manga, I tried to draw first. It was the first thing I tried to um, make my stories real.
Mhm.
So I tried to draw. I had several pages down, and I realized I can't do this because I don't have the training. I don't have the tools, and it was just too hard for me at that age.
Mhm.
And I discovered novels, and I realized, oh, I can. This is easier than
Oh,
art.
yeah.
So yeah, it was just the need for me to make my stories real and see them materialize into something more real. And it's
Mhm.
just from then on I've been writing stories down for my eyes only because I've it's never been about publishing for me. I just needed to live in that world and I need to see it materialize in
Mhm.
some ways. Doesn't have to be writing. If I could make a movie, I'd make a movie. I wouldn't be writing.
Well, I think you also mentioned that you would post onto free websites and such, just, a lot of your stories. Was that mainly the romance things that you were writing at the time, or was Obsidian on,
um,
somewhere, or
I I've always written romance for my eyes only until and the first thing I actually posted on the internet was when I was reading this manga and I really loved the characters and I joined a community uh, for the scanlations actually because I needed the next chapters. It's not available
Mhm.
anywhere. So and then people started writing fan fictions and I discovered fan fiction
Love
and
fan
that was
fiction.
the first time I tried fan fiction because I've been writing anyway, but original stories and I just tossed a chapter out there for fun and then realized that people really liked it and so I
Mhm.
kept going. So and for 7 years I was writing that one fan fiction which is a trilogy of about 300K
Mhm.
and that
Wow.
was the most successful uh, book trilogy of my writing career. Actually, it's been translated by fans into 7 languages. I have 3 versions in Russian and
That's
so verbal
great.
in Vietnamese. Uh, and people tell me I have a shrine somewhere in China that I don't know about.
That's great
But
though.
yeah, that was a really the point where I really feel successful as a writer, that I don't even feel like I've come close
Hmm.
now yet. And it was intimidating because it was one there was the story that I put everything into it. I was really passionate about, that intimidates me today, because when you write something that really works, you feel like you can't do that again, that you're
Mm-hmm.
afraid that you can't do that again.
Well, then
And
sometimes you prove to yourself that you can.
yeah,
You know?
I feel like the best of my ideas was in that book.
Well, you can always borrow.
I do actually. Like there's a lot of in Obsidian that I took from that fanfic, and I just twisted it a bit because that was
Yeah.
concept that I really loved. But yeah, that I started posting on the internet. It was a fan fiction that went on for 7 years, and after that my readers were saying, you have to go pro, you have to start sharing your original stories now, and they
Well,
wanted me to publish. So I started writing with the goal to publish, and
mhm.
I failed it miserably. It didn't work for me at all.
I think it's gonna come, honestly. Okay, because for full disclosure, you did not reach out to me and say, "Hey, read this book and write a review about it." I found it through Twitter. I think we had a couple mutual friends, and I was like, "I'm gonna read that one." I was just it was the second book that I picked up, and I loved it. And so, yeah, I think it's gonna take time, but I really do think that you've got something there. And I know I don't know. I'm not gonna ask you your sales numbers or anything like that. But it's very good quality, and I really loved the story. Like I raved about it to my sister for several days afterwards, and she may read it soon, but
Oh,
so
thank you so much.
but yeah, you're welcome.
I don't like to ask people to read my books.
I
It's
understand. Yeah.
it's it's because I love them so much. I always say it feels like I'm asking my daughter to go and be into prostitution every time. Really,
Pretty
because
sure that
I
yeah.
love my stories. I'm able to love my stories without
Mhm.
having anybody read it, and I've done that for maybe 2 decades.
Right.
And so it feels to me like, if when I post, I feel like if you want to read it, you read it, and I really love that you read it. But I am not going to go around asking people to read my book,
Mhm.
and because for one thing, I don't want anybody to feel obligated reading what I love.
Mhm.
I hate that. I always say, if you pick up my book and you hate it halfway through, please, like, you can toss it away. Don't waste your time reading in agony, because I don't want that feeling. I don't want anybody to read my book hating it because they just want to finish it. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Well, and I smile because I remember reaching out to you halfway through and going, "Dang, girl." Like, because I can't remember what scene it was, but something that you said just it hit so perfectly that was like, "Oh my goodness," like that was crazy. And because I've been for the past few years, I've been critiquing stories in a community of others authors that they put all their stories out there and we critique each other's work. And so I've written a lot of things. They're like, "Oh, okay, I don't know where you're going with this," but I was like, "This is good. This is really good. Like, I'm so glad that I picked it up." So I know I'm just like throwing praise on you, but I'm serious. I really did enjoy your book a lot.
It's a dream come true for any writer, and I I posted Obsidian on the web because on Wattpad, because I was addicted to that feeling of being able to talk to my readers
Mm-hmm.
while I'm writing the book. It's an amazing feeling
It
that I
is.
think publishing doesn't, you know,
You lose
you don't
something
get
there.
that. Yeah, you don't get
Mhm.
that when you do the traditional way of, writing the whole book, finish book and then release it.
Hmm.
Because when I was writing fan fiction, I released one chapter at a time where I don't even know where I'm going because I'm a pantser. I really don't know where I'm going next chapter. And then you get feedbacks every chapter on paragraphs even, that when they find some quote that they really like, they comment, and then it's an amazing sharing experience
I
that
wonder if there's a way somebody
money
could.
cannot buy, really.
Oh, I wonder if there's a way that could be monetized someday, though, just because we know we have to eat.
Vella,
Vela?
Kindle Vella.
I haven't
Yes,
tried that. I'll have to look at
Vella
it.
is the same thing that I've been encouraging people who can, to do it. I want to do Vella, but I think it's offered only for the United States for now.
Oh,
So
okay.
you release chapter by chapter as well, and people are able to comment and vote.
Hmm.
So it's very close to Wattpad, but you get paid by
I
you
wonder if there's a
you have to pay
VPN.
to unlock future chapters as well, and it's working well for many people. And I think it's a perfect way for an author to kind of test their book if it works. Because
Hmm.
the idea is to release it out there, see the comments, and then you can edit the book, and then just release the finished version based on what you've got from all these readers, which is like having hundreds, thousands of beta readers
Right,
who will be very honest with you as well because they don't know you. The thing
right.
is, I don't use beta readers because oftentimes they know you and they're careful. They don't want to hurt your feelings. But when you put your stuff on the website where nobody knows you personally, they're honest,
Hmm.
so you know exactly what you're doing wrong. If they stop reading at any point in time, you know you're doing wrong, something wrong with the story. You have to up your game. And I think it's very useful tool that you get paid as well on Vela.
And but that's not available in Thailand. Is if you got like a VPN, would that
Uh,
get you
I'm
past
not
it
sure. I
or?
haven't really checked it out because I'm releasing on Wattpad and I have a lot of readers there have been reading it for
That's
free. It just
true.
feels bad for me to start charging them. I was like, I'm gonna charge you guys now, and they have been supporting me for years.
Well,
And
maybe
then
your next story. Which,
maybe, yeah,
if you're like me, it's like next story. I'm so wrapped up in my current story right now, the one I'm writing, that it's like
yeah.
there's
I
something
can't do
besides
two.
this.
Yeah, I can't do two books at the same time. Can
I
you?
can't either. Some people can. They're like, oh, I'm on like I got three books open. I'm like, how? Like I'm in that world. Like that's my world right now. Which
Yeah,
the one I'm publishing, I finished up that world a couple years ago. I finished that one up, but I'm in another world now. So
yeah,
but I've been editing this the one that's about to be released. I'm like ripped out of my world and put back in time. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. So
yeah.
that's been a weird feeling for
I
sure.
mean, I can, but
Hmm.
it feels like I don't do a very good job unless I'm totally 100% immersed in this world, in this
Hmm.
character's head. And the moment I jump from one story to another, I it's like me taking 5 steps back for both stories, and then I end up producing works that is 50%
And
good.
then you get thrown into the marketing world and you're in nobody's
Oh,
head except your own, and that's not a safe place for me.
yeah,
I would start
especially with
worrying.
Obsidian. It's it's a book that's important to me. I want to die being known, written this book. It's not just a book that
Hmm.
I'm going to publish. It's my Lord of the Rings, for Tolkien. It's my Game of Thrones. It's the most important series to
Hmm.
me, and I want as many people to read it as possible. So money is not a problem. I would give out the books for free today if that means more readers, but apparently in the publishing world and you give something out for free, people think it's trash. So
Yeah, it's like,
no, you can't do that either. But I was happy on Wattpad getting
mm,
free readers, but it's a very limited platform because mostly it's young people wanting romance
mhm.
and erotica. So
Hmm.
it's not wide enough for me. That's why I published, because I need, and I want it to be uh seen by another group that is not on Wattpad. So that's the reason I publish. But it's never been about money or me being a writer or anything.
Mhm. Well, and it's hard, especially if you're self-publishing and you're the one financing all of the things, like
So,
because cover design and illustrations and stuff like that, which this why I'm 8 novels deep and this is the first one I've published. It's
oh, you too.
because right, it was finances, right? Because I searched for a publisher
It's a
and
chore.
yeah, well, it is, yeah. Like
It's a chore,
I've
and
written
we're
8 books
so
without
happy
getting credit.
writing these stories.
Oh yeah, but my characters won't leave me alone, you know?
Yeah,
So, I mean, the publishing part's gonna be the hard part, But thankfully, I ended up finding somebody to sponsor my books essentially.
yeah, that really takes a lot out of it.
It does. Now the one problem is this is the second publisher that I had, and the first one went bankrupt like a month before the launch. So you never know what they're gonna do.
Yeah, yeah.
We all hope they're gonna work out, but I don't know about this one. Well, I think they're doing okay. They seem more financially savvy than the last one, so but yeah, that's a lot of pressure on the self-publishing writer is to make back the money that you put into it.
I think whichever way you go, success is going to take that much. Even if you go to traditional publishing, there's the querying part is gonna be tough,
Soul
etc.
sucking.
Selling, yes, and that's the tough part about it. If you go indie, there's difficulties involved. If you go with independent publishers, that is involved. So
Hmm.
either way, I think we're all equally struggling,
We really
just in
are. Yeah.
different ways. Yeah,
It's very hard out there. And well, there's so many of us, it seems. Um,
yeah,
and I don't know if that's because well, in a lot of ways, it's been easier to publish it, but it's
yeah.
the marketing that's just so hard to do right now. How has writing this book changed your look at life?
It's the other way around. My life has been changed, and that's why I'm writing the book to share.
Okay, elaborate for us on that.
I'm a traveler first and foremost, and most of the things you see in this book is has been inspired by everything I've seen, the life I've led, the mistakes I've done, and cultures that I've experienced. As you said before, that you could see history and traditions,
Hmm.
some of these that you saw in the book as being real, and yeah, so it's a part of me wanting to share different cultures that I really appreciate. And I feel like sometimes people could be very narrow-minded. Sometimes they would judge other cultures, other traditions that are not like theirs
Hmm.
as bad. And as a traveler, I think most travelers will share my views that every culture, even some traditions that feel horrible to you, they work in their own ways, in their own environment, and you would travelers respect that. You can find good things in there, bad things in there, in every tradition, and that's the one aspect that I wanted to share with the world. Um, I feel like we could use a book where it's to open people up. See, arranged marriage, for example, in my book, usually if you go to a Westerner, you would feel like this is a horrible, horrible thing, right?
Right. Hmm.
Arranged marriage is unthinkable. It's always bad. It's never good. But coming from my culture, where we're third world countries, where I know I've been with people who are so poor, and people who would have to support their entire family, and they would willingly marry someone they don't love for money to support their family. It's
Right.
some of those families do need them, and this is so it's not always a horrible thing. Some people can, like the Jari, um, find sacrifice their own freedom of choice for something greater, for the community, for someone else that they love. This is something that is also noble, and it's a part where I think a lot of Westerners don't see. You always look at it. The thing is, I've grown up in half my life in the Western world and half my life here,
Mhm.
so I see it from both point of views. I don't
Right.
hate any side. I can see it that there's bad things about this, but I want to show you that it's not always about the parents forcing their kids to marry. Some of these kids understand that
Well,
they're
then,
doing good things for the community, and it's okay, and they end up having a really good marriage actually, and
okay.
a loving family. So it's not always going to turn out horribly. I've seen a lot of arranged marriage couples that actually work better than the ones that they've chosen, because they realize they want to, they want a nice family, and they work towards that, and they become friends, and they end up loving each other. It happens. I'm not
Right.
saying it's always going to happen, but there is that point of view that I want to share with the world, that's from a different culture, and maybe hopefully people who read my book from both sides of the world would not be so quick to judge.
Well, and then you also inserted Hashim. I'm saying his name right, aren't I?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he's an outsider, and he comes into these cultures, and he's asking a lot of these questions, or it seems to be that he doesn't understand. Especially there's a part where he witnesses an execution, and he does a he's the outsider asking those questions about their culture, and that's a good opportunity for you to kind of expound on why things are the way they are for the reader.
Yeah.
So, and I really appreciated that, because I can see where you were trying to interweave those concepts, but also just it's like you took your reader by the hand and led them down to explain why things are the way they are. And you didn't
Yeah.
spare everybody in that book. And I'm sorry, I'm having trouble remembering all the names, but your
Me too.
I'm thinking of the captive woman, where
Zara.
yes, well she's is she's mean to her son. I'm like, what? You're supposed to be the heroine, like the
It
heroine, but
makes
you're
sense though,
it
right?
does. It makes perfect sense. But I liked that too, because you didn't spare anybody. She has had a miserable life, and it happens. It makes sense why she.
Especially
Mhm.
for how much she hates her husband, and the
Right,
son is being a product of him,
right.
and which reminds her every day of that misery, and of the position she's in. Also, that Lusura looks like his father. That was the
Mm.
point that I saw that was gonna tip her off. But just and this is I see her as a mother being torn between the love for her son and the hatred for the father that she actually sees in the son. So it's a big conflict within herself, and Zahara is always in denial. She's
Hmm.
always in denial. There is an ideal that she wants to follow, and then there is her as a woman, and a mother that is in conflict. Yeah.
Well, so all of the characters are just very well developed and very deep, which is why I'm like, everybody should read this novel. But while we're here, do you have you mind just giving us some of your information about your social media, where we can find your work and all that stuff?
Well, I'm only on Twitter as Sienna Frost without an O, because that handle has been taken.
Okay.
Damn it. And the same and on Wattpad, which is where you can find book two.
So,
The
but is there an
I
O in that Frost on
I
Wattpad?
actually I gotta check.
Send it to me on Twitter, and I can add that into the video.
Actually, I don't remember. It's been a while, because you just log into these things, and you just use your face now to log into these things. I believe there is, yeah, there's an O in that one for Wattpad.
Well, on the other meeting, you had Faye over in the corner, but now you're Sienna Frost. And I had my pen name and on the other one, but then I had my real name. I just changed it. I had my real name here now. Oh, us and our pen names. We'll get it eventually.
I know it feels
Yeah.
weird. Yeah.
Well, mine is just I'm using my maiden name, because
Ah,
Williams is the third most common last name in the United States. So this is Haig.
wow.
I'm not sure if that's any better, but at least I can
No, I
remember
like
it.
it.
So.
It's unique. It looks pretty on the
Oh, well,
cover as
thank
well.
you. It's vague with an H, is how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
It's also the capital of the Netherlands, that kind of stuff. So most people don't know
Yeah.
that, at least in the States,
Good,
though. So,
good for the cover design because I design my own covers and sometimes I want to just change my name because it doesn't go with the cover.
oh,
It's not balanced or something like that. So yeah, and sometimes you want another character which is gonna make the font more fancy, and sometimes I
right.
read, I want a letter A and here and Y there and X here, but
Oh, I
that's
hadn't
not
even
my
thought
name.
about that. I didn't design my cover. My cover came from the bankrupt publisher. That was the one thing I got out of that deal is they gave me a good
Oh,
cover.
okay.
So we just rolled with it.
Yeah. But
But
as a designer, sometimes you just want to change the title and the name of the
right.
author to fit your uh design,
So
which is
you
horrible.
created your own title, like your own cover?
Yeah, I do.
It
I
looks
did everything
great.
myself.
I'm
Thank
still
you.
impressed. So did you do the illustrations in your book?
No, those are royalty-free images that I adjusted a little bit on Photoshop to fit. Yeah.
Oh, well, they're great. So that's awesome. So most of this was done by you. So you've got writing talents, and you said that you couldn't that with the manga you or the manga that you couldn't draw, but you've got the graphic design down. So
Well, I can draw and paint, but not well enough to make me happy about it. Um,
no, I
I do
understand.
have a lot of paintings that I show, but I would say I can get it to maybe 6 or 7 out of 10 from what I want it to be. With
Mm.
writing, I would say about 8. I Yeah, that's how I grow as a writer. I feel I have this very clear vision of what I want it to be, and I only measure myself against my own standards. So right now,
Mhm.
I feel it doesn't matter if you think I write really well. I feel like it's only 8 out of 10 that I have 2 more.
Well, that's what drives us and
So
pushes us to keep going, though. So that's not a
yeah,
bad thing to have. Um,
yeah,
always trying to improve.
yeah.
But thank you so much for talking with me.
It's
And
that
this,
yeah. It's been a really nice talk, and thank you for having me on your blog or your interview.
well, here's to many more on that.
I hope so. Hopefully, when book 2 comes out, we'll have another talk.
Yeah.